Hello everyone, my name is Seth, and today I'm going to give you my review of Wonder Man. So I know it's a little bit change of schedule here. I know I said I was going to be doing Iron Lung as my next review, but I live in North Carolina, and if you don't know, there has been a huge winter storm, ice and snow. I have not seen snow like this maybe ever in my life. So I have been stuck at home pretty much for the past 2 weeks. So I have not been able to go out and see Iron Lung yet. I'm hoping I get a chance to this week. But while I was stuck at home, I figured this was a perfect opportunity for me to go ahead and watch Wonder Man. And I think this show is interesting because up until about a month before it came out, I had kind of forgot that this show was even happening. I don't necessarily think they had a great marketing campaign for this show, and them dropping all 8 episodes at once did kind of give me a little bit of pause for concern. Typically, Marvel and Disney have liked to do a week-by-week release for a show, and so them dropping all 8 at once made me think, maybe it's not that good. Maybe they're not that confident in it. But I feel like I haven't seen that many people online talking about Wonder Man or even mentioning that they want to see it at all. But I can understand that because for the marketing campaign, it didn't really command your attention. That's what I'm here for you to watch this video and decide if you want to watch it for yourself. And even though I didn't love the show, I still really liked it. There's a lot of really good things here, even though it might not be for everybody. But before we go any farther, go ahead and like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video, get notified every time I upload. A big goal by the end of the year, it'd be really cool if we could get to 500 subscribers. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing, and if you're not new here, share this video around with any friends or family. It could really help the channel grow, and it would absolutely make my day. I definitely understand why Marvel may have struggled a bit to kind of advertise this show, because this definitely isn't like any other Marvel show. And I don't know if this review is going to end up being a little bit shorter, but I don't want to give anything away either. I definitely want you to experience this show for yourself if you decide to watch it. But if you were coming into the show expecting like a typical normal Marvel TV show, superhero show, then I think you would be disappointed. Even though we do follow a super-powered individual named Simon Williams, this is really more of a small, contained story, really focused on characters. It's more of like a slice of life in like the 616 MCU. So while we still are in the MCU, the 616 universe, our main Marvel universe, it pretty much is disconnected from just about everything else that's going on. So in this show, we follow Simon Williams, who is played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen. Simon is a struggling actor trying to make it in Hollywood. He meets Trevor Slattery, played by Ben Kingsley, the same Trevor Slattery from Iron Man 3 and from Shang-Chi. And so Simon runs into Trevor, who begins to mentor him as Simon tries to get his dream role in a new superhero film, while he is secretly navigating his own superpowers. Now, this isn't a spoiler. This is just something that might intrigue you into watching the show. When I mention that he's secretly navigating his superpowers, that's because in the world of the MCU, they basically have a ban on superpowered individuals acting in film. But this show, it doesn't have any big superhero action sequence or big superhero fight scene. We just really follow Simon along on this journey that he's going on. And I think this is a very interesting way to tell a story in the MCU. It's definitely different than anything else that they've done before. You can tell we're in the MCU, but this really is just a slice of life story where we get to spend a lot of quality time with a couple of characters. The show really takes its time, and we get to see the struggle that Simon is going through. We get to see how his relationships or lack thereof affect him as a person. Now, I will say there's a couple of times where I feel like it takes a little bit too much time. There's probably a moment or two in just about every episode, not all, but quite a few of them, where I feel like the show is starting to kind of meander just a little bit. The pacing kind of drags just a little bit, and maybe we're seeing stuff that doesn't necessarily tie into the overall story and really affect the characters. There's just a few times where I just kind of felt my focus drifting, but they did get it back. This is a simple story, and I think the simplicity of the story is both kind of a positive and a negative. I like that they decided to do something really simple and kind of disconnected from the rest of the MCU. It's something like they've never done before, and we just follow Simon on this acting journey he's going on. We follow him as he's dealing with his agent and going to auditions and like really dealing with just kind of nervousness and maybe even a little bit of like an imposter syndrome. But also, when you take a big overarching look at the show from beginning to end, it can kind of feel like there's not a ton that actually happens here in this show. And I think one of the bigger things is kind of undone a little bit. But to me, I don't think that's that big of a deal whenever you're dealing with characters who are written as performed as well as they are here. One thing I do want to mention is how I said earlier, this might not necessarily be for everybody. This is definitely heavily centered around the film industry. We're following two actors, and Simon is trying to audition for this dream role. He's kind of been a struggling actor. He's gotten fired from shows before. We see him doing some self-tapes. We see him doing some auditions. You're not really into a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff in filmmaking, then some of this stuff will probably be a little bit boring to you. Now, that's not the case for me. I absolutely love all of the behind-the-scenes stuff. I have watched behind-the-scenes stuff on Blu-rays and DVDs ever since I was a little kid. I remember watching a film as a kid and thinking, oh, how did they make that? And then immediately after it was over, go look at the behind-the-scenes special features. So I absolutely love all that. I have been on film sets, and this is very, very accurate. So I really like seeing Simon go on auditions. I really like seeing Simon just in his trailer on set and things that happen in between takes. Simon talking with the writer or a producer or the director. I think that all of that is very interesting to me. But at the same time, I do recognize how that might not necessarily be for everybody if that's just something that's not really an interest of yours. I mentioned a little bit earlier, but one of the best things about this show, one of the biggest praises I can give it, is that the writing and the performances are so good. And I understand the pacing and where it kind of drags a little bit, that is a part of the writing, but I'm talking more specifically the characterization of our characters. We spend almost all of our time with Simon, and that has to work. He has to be interesting. The audience has to care about Simon, and the writers do such a good job with his character that pretty much almost immediately you care about this character. The audience absolutely has to connect with Simon, and for me, I absolutely did. And I think Simon works as a character because whether you've been on a film set or not, you know somebody like him. I have been on a few film sets, and I definitely have ran into a few people that are exactly like Simon. I remember even the very first scene, I was like, yep, I know that person. But they do such a great job of his character throughout the course of the show because he doesn't just stay stagnant. And there's not even like one giant thing that completely changes him as a person. You just gradually see him grow and change over the course of the show. And they do a great job of giving us reasons as to why Simon is the way that he is. And one of the things I can't praise enough is the work that they did with the character of Trevor Slattery. We get some really great depth here in this show, and that was something I was not expecting. We get to see why he even did the fake Mandarin thing to begin with. And we do see that his actions had consequences, and the consequences are still paying out. He's just incredibly well written and well rounded in this show, and we get a lot of emotional depth from him. To me, I think this show has kind of turned the Trevor character from kind of a joke character into a character with a lot of emotion and a lot of depth and a backstory, and it's a character that you care about, and honestly, I want to see more from Trevor. And after watching Iron Man 3 and then Shang-Chi, I never thought I would have said that. But just like we spent a lot of time with Simon, we spend a lot of time with Trevor as well, and he's kind of put between a rock and a hard place, and that really tests some of the relationships here, and that is kind of one of the main driving forces of the story. But we really get to see kind of what kind of person Trevor was and what kind of person he has become now. And the chemistry between Yahya Abdul-Mateen and Ben Kingsley, you absolutely believe that these two would be friends. And all of this character work is just so great. It really takes a joke character and a character we have never met before, and it makes you care about them so much in 8 episodes. But another reason why these characters do work as well as they do, yes, it's the writing, but it's also the performances. Not only are the characters written to have great chemistry, Yahya Abdul-Mateen and Ben Kingsley, their acting together has great chemistry. There's just something special that happens when both of them are on screen together. Both of these guys really are the heart and soul of this show, and they give absolutely fantastic performances. It can be difficult from time to time for actors on screen to act like they're acting, if that makes sense, and it feel real, but they do a great job here. Nothing ever seems forced at all. Everything just seems so incredibly natural. Yahya Abdul-Mateen has an incredible screen presence anytime he's on screen. Like, you can't help but look his direction. And there are moments in this show where his performance just absolutely captivated me. There's just a few times where the camera is just solely focused on him and his performance, and that is one of the most entertaining parts of this show. There were times where his performance just gave me chills, honestly. And Ben Kingsley is an incredibly talented actor who, in his previous appearances as this character, he didn't really have much to work with, but that's because the script never called for him to really do much with this character. But I feel like this show finally recognized, oh, hey, we have Ben Kingsley as this character. Let's actually do something where he can sink his teeth into this character, give him some real emotional depth, and he nails every single aspect of that performance. The simple story here leads to some simple but effective filmmaking. They don't try to go over the top or be really flashy with their cinematography. Sometimes it just has some really nice and well thought out shots. Another thing I do want to give them credit on is they kind of took a risk with one of the episodes. They gave us a episode that is pretty much a whole backstory for a character that was just kind of mentioned offhand. But in just one episode, they were able to tell a complete and satisfying story that also had a completely different look, completely different visual style from the rest of the show. Another thing that just helps add to kind of the groundedness of this story is that they use so many real locations. A lot of times they were just like, hey, I mean, we're here in LA. Let's just go out onto the streets of LA and shoot something. There's just kind of this charm about it. So this isn't going to be a show where you're sitting around and theorizing with your friends. This isn't going to be a show where you're looking for big reveals or looking for how this story pushes the overall story of the MCU forward. This is a small scale kind of slice of life character study. It's slower paced, but we get some really great performances from Yahya Abdul-Mateen and from Ben Kingsley. They do some great work with their characters, and the writing on those characters is absolutely incredible. It is kind of fun to see what life is like for some of the more normal people in the MCU. Sometimes the show meanders just a bit, but other than those moments, the writing, especially the character work, is really good. I get that this story and the focus on some of the behind the scenes stuff and acting and filmmaking might not necessarily be for everybody, but if you go into this knowing you're not going to get like a traditional superhero kind of show, I think you would really enjoy it. I think this is a great change of pace for the MCU. I definitely recommend watching the show, especially if you are a big fan of behind the scenes stuff like I am. But even if you are kind of burnt out on superhero stuff, that is kind of in the background. So this might be a great choice for you to watch as well. But that's it. That's my review of Wonder Man. Have you seen this show? Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. I would absolutely love to have a conversation with you about it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. You can follow me on social media pretty much anywhere @CinemaSeth, and I'll see you next time.